Welcome back to The Grind. In this video, we are going to talk about my thoughts on the best champions to take to rank 4 as your first rank 4 6-star champion. Now, we have recently received confirmation that the Act 7 exploration rewards will include a crystal that will give you a random class gem to take a champion from rank 3 to 4. And for most players, this could be their first rank 4 champion because it's been hard to get all the needed tier 3 alpha and tier 6 basic in order to take a champion to rank 4 with those materials. Even if you have spent a little bit on offers and done most of the content, people are still going to be a little bit away, and this might be their first chance at a rank 4 champion. The problem is it's class specific and it's random, so you don't have a full choice. You will have a class kind of selected for you at random, and you're going to have to make a pick between the champions that you have in that class to take one of them to rank 4 or to save it until you get a different champion. Now, I have mixed opinions on this because if you're going to take a champion to rank 4 that you don't think you're going to love in the long run, then you should be saving that rank up gem for a champion that you're going to love. And I believe your first rank 4 should, number 1, be a champion that you enjoy playing and that you will likely play often. You want to be able to use your top champion as much as possible. And that means you want this champion to be decent on attack. Ideally, this champion will also be good on defense. And also, depending on your situation, where you're at in the game, you want this champion to also have reasonable prestige. Now, I made a video a couple days ago talking about how prestige really works and how much of an impact it makes. And I used an example of an alliance mate of mine that actually taking Nick Fury to rank 4 Sig 200 made a bigger impact on his prestige than taking his already max sigged Thor Ragnarok from rank 3 to rank 4. And that's because Thor Ragnarok is already near the top of his top 5. Nick Fury was not on his top 5, so he knocked off the bottom of his top 5 for prestige and replaced that bottom one with a very, very high prestige champion, being a rank 4 Nick Fury. And it actually was like 250 personal points for prestige different by using Nick Fury instead of Thor Ragnarok, if I remember correctly. I'm going to link that video in this video above as well as in the description, so go check that out if you are interested. And that is going to be how we're going to base our decision making. As far as having decent prestige, we're going to let that champion be a few hundred below the top champion. And we're going to go class by class and talk a little bit about my thoughts. So let's start off with the science class. Now, the science class I was actually having a fairly hard time with because there are some very awesome standout ones, and then there's a handful of decent ones that I would say, yeah, if you like that champion, I would consider taking them up. Now, the first one that I'm going to shout out is Immortal Abomination. This is currently the one that I think is at the top of my list because he is just so good on attack. He's really good on defense, especially with Battlegrounds out. He can be a kind of like a secret weapon on either side. He has really good prestige. He benefits from the SIGs, and that's another thing you want to take into consideration is, are you going to want to invest 200 SIG stones into this champion or close to 200 SIG stones into this champion, or is it going to hurt knowing that it's not benefiting you much at all? And we'll talk about some champions that are like that. But Immortal Abomination, he does benefit from it. It makes his poison and acid burn last longer, so you're going to get a lot more damage out of him by having him at a higher SIG. So he's a top option in my opinion. Another one is Spider-Man 2099, and I don't have that champion. I would love to have him, even as a 5-star. He does benefit from the SIGs a bit. They're not essential, but he does benefit from them. And he is just a powerhouse as an attacker. He doesn't really do much as a defender, but he is just such an amazing attacker for all sorts of content. And he's constantly surprising people, and he has good prestige as well. So he is also a top option for your first rank 4. Now, beyond that, it kind of comes down to what your personal preferences are and maybe what you've done in the past. If you've already invested in a SIG 200 cap Infinity War, mine's not max SIG, but he's 120, and you love this champion, his prestige is not great at max SIG, but it's not the worst. I wouldn't say this is the best option if you really, really care about prestige, but if you're kind of like a, top 150, 200 alliance or so, maybe it's not the worst option. And he does benefit from the SIGs. If you do want to take him to max SIG, you really want him at max SIG for the most part. And he's just a really good all-around champion that you can use in multiple situations. A similar champion like that is Thing. Thing benefits immensely from the SIGs. If you've already invested in a SIG 200 Thing, then you're going to save those SIG stones that you can then put into another champion. And Thing at rank 4 would be a beast on defense, but he's kind of lacking on the offensive side. He can have his place on the offensive side, and having him at rank 4 would give him more damage and make him feel a little bit better to play. But he's kind of missing the offense. Cap America is missing a little bit of the defense. But they both have decent prestige, and they both have that benefit of, they really want to be max SIG, and maybe you've already invested in them. And then beyond those champions, there's a few other champions that I would say would benefit from potentially that Awakening Gem and all those SIGs for your first rank 4 because of their prestige being okay, being decent offensive and maybe in some situations defensive champions, and benefiting quite significantly from that rank 4. Now, the first one we'll talk about is Mr. Negative. Now, Mr. Negative is going to benefit quite a lot from a rank 4 because his damage is going to scale nicely. Also, he has really good prestige. It's quite nice. He benefits quite nicely from the Awaken ability. You don't really need it for him as an offensive champion, but when you do have it, it opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. If he is max SIG, he can completely counter any degen match. He's actually going to heal from the degen. So you want to be have a degen put on you. So he does benefit from it, and I think that he would do a lot. He also is a champion that can kind of handle a lot of difficult matchups, and he has some very unique abilities. I do have some videos on him on my channel if you'd like to take a look. He's one that I would consider if you like playing him and are interested in that. Another one that I have not awakened yet, but Mr. Fantastic. He does benefit a lot from the SIGs, and he's actually a really good champion. He can do a lot. He can control power matchups, healing matchups. He can get some really nice damage if you take him to the special 3. More so for longer fights is where you'll see his true damage unleashed. But he can do a lot for you. He can solo various fights in the Abyss. And he's also a great support champion because he has those pre-fights. And with all the SIGs put into him, when you get those careful study passes on the opponent, his combat power rate is going to skyrocket. And at max SIG, it's going to be so high, you're going to be spamming special attacks and get a bunch of extra damage that way. So he's an option to consider. And then another one that I don't have is the Overseer. The Overseer is an amazing champion. He does benefit from the Awakened ability and a little bit from the SIGs. He has really good prestige. I think he's the top in the science class for prestige. So he checks off a lot of boxes. He can be great on attack for especially some tricky matchups, and he can be good on defense as well. And if you enjoy playing him, he is actually a lot of fun to play. So he would be one that I would consider for the rank 4 as well. There's some other great champions in this class, but personally not the ones that I would suggest or consider for rank 4. Now let's move on to the skill class. And the skill class also has a handful of decent options. The top few for me of the champions that I have, the top 2 I guess, would be Nick Fury and Shang-Chi. Those are the ones that I have. I would love to take Black Widow, Deadly Origin to rank 4. Could you imagine how fast she would nuke down fights? Another one for an honorable mention would be Kingpin. But let's just kind of go top to bottom. I think in my mind, it's kind of actually hard to tease out which ones I think are the best. And so if you have a mix of them or only one of them and you're interested in that champion, then I would consider it Nick Fury, Shang-Chi, and then Kingpin I don't have as a 6-star. Kingpin and Mole Man, which I also don't have as a 6-star. They are all powerhouses in the skill class. And most of them, or all of them, to some degree benefit from the SIGs. Nick Fury, the SIGs really kind of matter on defense more so than offense. Shang-Chi gets more damage from the SIGs, but he doesn't need the Awaken ability or the SIGs for his kit, so you may or may not want to invest all the SIGs into him, but he has really great prestige. Nick Fury's is a bit lower, but as I said, in some situations, it might actually still be beneficial for you to take that champion up. And then Mole Man and Kingpin are also kind of lower down on the prestige, but they benefit from the SIGs, and they're just powerhouses, offensively, defensively, especially Mole Man. Mole Man might be one that would just completely nuke fights down so fast. Nick Fury benefits because he'll have a higher health pool, so when he's in second life and you're playing with that 30% health pool, it's a lot larger than it would be at rank 3. And then could you imagine those bleeds? I mean, we've seen videos, but the bleeds are just nuts. And then Shang-Chi, while he doesn't hurt that much in the damage department, sometimes it's nice to be able to get to a special 2 and just throw a single special 2 to end off a war fight. And having that at rank 4 and that extra burst damage from the awakened ability, you very likely can end some very difficult matchups with a single special 2. So those I would say were my top 4 that are really up there for contending for the first rank 4 champion. And then I have 3 honorable mentions. I did already mention Black Widow Deadly Origin. If you enjoy playing that champion, she would be a beast to be a rank 4. Hitmonkey is a beast as well. He does some insane damage, critical damage, and bleed damage. He's great with the suicides. His prestige is pretty good as well. And then, of course, we can't forget Thor Ragnarok, which is typically looked at as just a prestige option. His prestige is the best, obviously, in the class, but he's also a good offensive champion. He can do a lot. He can be very useful on offense. He can stun lock opponents. He can dish out some really high damage in short periods of time. He does require you going to the special 3 though, and because you're spamming specials, you're not going to want suicides on or the recoil tree on, and he can be decent on defense. So there is a handful of decent options within the skill class. Now for the mutant class. For me, the mutant class, the top 2 are really easy. It is Kitty Pryde and Apocalypse, and I would love to have a Kitty Pryde. If I got a Kitty Pryde, I would drop a gem into her, take her to rank 3 right away, and I would make her probably my next, my rank 4 for the mutant class. Currently, since I don't have Kitty Pryde, Apocalypse would be the one that I choose, but there are others that are worth it. And Professor X, if you don't use the recoil tree masteries, he's an amazing champion. He's got some great utility. He can deal some insane damage, and so he could do a lot for you as your rank 4. He benefits a bit from the SIGs, but he has good prestige, so that's something that he has going for him. And then beyond that, I don't know. A lot of them, I don't feel like they really need the rank 4. But if you love the champion and their prestige is good enough for you, then you could consider taking them up. Some that I would consider, I wouldn't go with Magneto personally. Mine's still at rank 2, and I find that's okay. The ones that I would consider, actually, though, would be Namor, if you've already invested in him, if you really like playing him, and you want him to be one of your prestige champs, he could be useful for rank 4. Bishop is another one that I think he's underrated. He has decent prestige. He's a great offensive champion, a great defensive champion, and so he's got a lot. He's checking all the boxes. So if you enjoy playing Bishop, I think he would be a good option to take to rank 4 as your first rank 4 as well. And then a couple others that we'll mention is Archangel and Omega Red. Archangel, for the obvious reasons, he's an amazing champion, but most of the time, rank 2 or rank 3 will do the job very nicely. And then Omega Red, very similar. But if you love these champions and you play them all the time, having them at rank 4, giving you that extra edge, will do, it'll be nice. You'll be using them all the time. You'll be finishing fights that much quicker. And so those would be ones that you could consider as well if you're not as concerned about prestige or if you don't have any of the other options. Now we're going to take a look at the tech class. And the tech class is one of the harder ones for me, mostly because I don't have any of the champions that I would ideally want to be my first rank 4. If I had to choose one right now, my first rank 4 would probably be Guardian. Guardian is a good offensive champion. He has good prestige. He benefits a lot from the SIGs, and so I wouldn't feel bad investing all of that into him. And he might have his place on defense in some situations, but more so it's going to be that offensive ability and his what he offers to the rest of the team. Now, I do use Guardian in War fairly often. Accessing that insane damage takes time, takes a lot of ramp up and build up, and to be able to dish out a high amount of damage with a single special 1 and a single special 2 means a lot, especially in maybe things like Battleground, but especially in War. The longer you're in a match, the more time there is to mess up, the more time there is for the nodes to trip you up, and so being able to just do a quick 1-2 and done would be a lot. And I do use Guardian for some tricky fights in War. He's not my most used champion in War, but he's probably my most used tech champion in War. I don't have many of the great options that I would like to take up if I had all the options, but let's talk about my top options. The first one I would say is Warlock. Warlock is a beast. He's proven himself time and time again. He's useful in so many different scenarios. He's got decent damage. He's got armor breaks. He's got shock. He's got power drain. He's got regeneration. He can do a lot, and he can carry you through a lot of content. His damage isn't the best, and so having him at rank 4 will really help him shine more because he'll have that added damage. Another champion that is probably my number 2 recommendation for rank 4 is Nimrod. Nimrod has really good prestige as well, and that makes him one of the top options. He's also an incredible mutant killer. I'm sure you've seen it. He can just tear apart mutant champions. He's got a lot of other stuff going for him too, and he can take on other champions in certain situations as well. Even without those added benefits of the prowess or regen in the matchup, he can still do a lot and counter a lot of difficult fights. And having him at rank 4 with that prestige, with the SIGs that make him better as well, that would bring him to a whole new level. And again, it will just require less ramp up and build up and cycling of the rotations to do the job. And I think that Nimrod would be a great option. And then a couple other options. I already mentioned Guardian is on there. Penny Parker is a decent one to consider for your first tech rank 4 as well. Penny Parker is really good actually offensively. She has some unique immunity combinations. She's a beast on defense, and at rank 4 that would be such a pain. And she has good prestige, decent prestige as well. And then another one that you can consider, if you are an incredible Ghost fanatic, you could consider Ghost. Ghost obviously wants the 6 stones, but Ghost prestige is pretty bad. And so you're going to be hurting in that department if you do go with Ghost. But if you love Ghost, instead of having to do 2 special 2s, then you can just finish the fights off maybe with 1 special 2. And I would love to see a rank 4 Ghost in action. There's not a whole lot of other ones in the tech class that I would really say I recommend taking to rank 4 as your first rank 4 tech. Omega Sentinel might fill that spot once she actually comes to the game. Some of the other ones that I was toying around with the idea of would be like Ultron. Maybe Ultron would be, he's a beast already. He has some good damage already, but, just tanking him up even more. Nebula has some insane access to incredible shock damage, and you can just amplify that even more and just finish off even higher health pools with a single special 2. And I don't know if those are ones that I would really say to take to rank 4 for the first champion though. So those are my top, 5 that I mentioned, if you include Ghost in there. So now let's take a look at Cosmic. Now Cosmic is another one. This is probably my worst class. If I was to get a Cosmic rank 4 gem, I don't know what I would do. And I might not do anything, because I don't have a champion that I would really want to take to rank 4 Sig 200 at this point. Cosmic Ghost Rider, I don't know. He's one that you can consider if you love him. Obviously, if you love him, and you want to put all those SIGs into him, you could do that. Corvus Glaive is another one that you could consider. He does benefit from the rank 4, but his prestige isn't as good. It's not the worst, so you could still benefit with your prestige from taking him to rank 4. But for me, investing 200 Sig Stones and an Awakening Gem into Corvus, I feel like that would hurt too much. The Awakening Gem, yes, I could see the Awakening Gem going into Corvus, and I would love to have an Awakening Gem for him. But the 6 stones, he doesn't need the 6 stones. The reason that he benefits a lot from rank 4 is he has 20 glaive charges to work with. When they run out, the fight sucks for a while. Especially if you're really low on health, then you can die. So dealing more damage in that first fight with those only 20 glaive charges to get the fight started is a big deal. Also, his damage scales so well because of all the critical hits. It's just going to go through the roof. And so you want all the damage you can get. Not only that, but the higher ranked champions have increased combat power rate by a little bit. So you're going to get to that special 2 even quicker in less hits. And so the higher the rank you have for your Corvus, the better. The next one that the top ones that I would say for Cosmic would be Hercules, which I don't have. I did recently get as a 5-star though, and I'm loving him. I would love to have a 6-star. He would be probably my top choice for my first rank for Cosmic. My next top choice would probably be Null. He is in the featured currently, and so I'm hoping to pull him, because if I pull him, then he would be my choice for my first rank 4 Null if I don't have a Hercules. I think Null would be a great option for a first rank 4. Aside from that, we mentioned Corvus. Silver Surfer is a top prestige option. He's actually a decent champion. He can do a lot. His damage isn't always the greatest until you get ramped up, but again, having at a higher rank, you'll get better scaling on the burst damage and on the Furies and all that, so he'll start to hit like a truck. And so that's something, if you like him and you're really into that prestige game, he would be a great option, of course. And then looking down the list here, one of the ones that I'm thinking of, if I don't get any other Cosmic Champions, which I don't think I could bring myself to do, but I think would be awesome to have, is a rank 4 SIG 200 Terrax. Could you imagine the turmoil he would cause on defense or in battlegrounds in the right situations? But also, he can hit like a truck. He can do so much damage. Imagine a rank 4 Max Sig, the first heavy attack right out the gate in the fight would do so much damage. So I think that he would be a decent champion to consider, especially if you have one at rank 3. You've already put all the SIGs into him and have no other good options. He might be one to consider. Another one to shout out is Angela, which I also don't have as a 6-star, but I have the 5-star, which I also very much enjoy using. Angela would scale nicely as a rank 4 with her damage and with the increased potency of her buffs, and she does lots of crits as well. So I think she would be a great option, especially because she has lots of regeneration, and so the regen is going to be amplified because of her higher health pool, and so you're going to be able to take a lot more of a beating with Angela. And so those would be my top several choices for the Cosmic class. Now the last class is Mystic, and this is probably the easier one for me. Number 1 is obviously Dr. Doom. And then below that, I would say Diablo and Tigra are ones that I would really shout out for a first rank 4. Diablo is an amazing champion. He is so tanky. He has so much damage. His damage is like heavy into poison, and not a ton of champions do heavy amounts of poison damage. And he has very easy access to insane amounts of poison damage. He's got a lot of utility with his pre-fights. If you have Mystic Dispersion, it just kind of throws him to whole new heights. And his prestige isn't terrible. He also does benefit from the SIG stones, so you won't have to feel like you're putting them into nothing. And he's an amazing champion. He's really fun to play, and he can do a whole lot for you and for your account. Another one is Tigra, which I have as a 5-star, but not as a 6-star. And Tigra benefits a lot from the Awakened ability, and really does want to have all the 6 stones. And again, is a decent prestige champion, not the best prestige, but decent. And so you won't have to feel bad about putting all those things. She'll actually benefit highly from it, and she is just a powerhouse of a champion if you know how to play her or you're willing to put in the effort. And I think a rank 4 Tigra would be awesome to have. And then below there, there's 2 more that I kind of want to shout out. Sorcerer Supreme, I don't have. Sorcerer Supreme, because she has good prestige. If you want to put all the SIGs into her, maybe you've already put SIGs into her. If you love playing her, I think she would be a good option. I wasn't going to shout out Black Widow Clairvoyant, but I should. Her SIG is just not what you want, so I would feel bad if you had to awaken her or invest a bunch of SIG stones into her. But if she was already high SIG and you love playing her, especially if you run the recoil tree masteries, then she would be a powerhouse as a rank 4 champion. But I wouldn't want to put the SIG stones into her. That's just my only, the reason I didn't really have her on my list. The next one I have, though, the last one I have to shout out is Mojo. Mojo is a highly underrated offensive champion, and he is an insane defender. And as a rank 4, again, the higher health pools make a difference. He's going to be regenning more. His Furies are going to scale so much higher. The degen is going to be nuts. And the SIGs are highly impactful for Mojo. So he'll benefit a lot from going to SIG 200. And his prestige is actually decent. So that is the last one that I kind of want to shout out for the Mystic class. So that's it for all the classes now. For what I think would be decent ones to consider for your first rank 4 champions, let me know in the comment section below. I know it's going to be hard depending on which class you get, because you might not have quite the developed roster that you're hoping for in that class. You might not have the champion that you wanted to take to rank 4 in that class. But hopefully you get lucky and maybe you'll pull a champion soon after. But let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what class you would love to get, what class you would hate to get, and what your top choices are. And I hope to see you in the next video.